because I feel like one person should do the
Well,
introduction.
come up with a better introduction
Okay,
then.
let's try this again. Hi everybody, I'm Brian with Stitchhouse. This is Jessica.
I have an idea. Why don't we ask them to come up with an introduction for us?
It scares me. It terrifies me when we get y'all's suggestions, but let's throw it out into the world.
Okay, we need a better intro. Someone help us.
Give it.
Okay guys, what are we doing today?
We're doing the Chrysalis butterfly, and I
we
love questions. You're just trying to get me involved.
Yeah, always.
Okay, the Chrysalis project. So if you're watching this, that means that you purchased at least the essentials kit, and you're going to follow along and do this project with us, and then stick around at the end for a little bonus footage where we're going to be doing some woodworking.
And I'm super excited about that. So today's video is, I think, probably the most important video, and one that even if you're not part of our Chrysalis project, you may be watching our video, because we're going to show you how to get a design from the internet or a CD onto a USB stick.
Oh, something that terrifies so many of
Everybody.
us. Yes.
And then we're going to show you, we've got all of these different things here, and the most important part of any embroidery project is organizing your project before you get going.
Right.
And I think, Brian, you can really agree with that because you're Mr. Organization.
I love to organize stuff, and then Jess comes around behind me like this.
Actually, I'm totally joking. I'm the organizer and Brian just throws things.
Well, we'll have to we'll agree to disagree
Brian,
on that.
I don't know if I should say this.
I think,
Brian,
go ahead, open your mouth. Just keep in mind, I sleep in the same room as you.
Brian
I
leaves
see your
like
bathroom.
Brian leaves like a trail of his socks and shoes and everything along the house, and you can see where he just came home and took everything off and just...
What room does the underwear drop in?
Okay, anyway, now Brittany's walking out of the room. So we're going to show you how to organize an embroidery project and get it from your USB stick to the machine, and then we're going to show you all of these different things that we've got here, and that is the most important part of the project. So if you are just tuning into this video and you'd like to get going with Chrysalis, you still have time to buy everything here, buy the design, buy one of our kits and get it shipped out to you, because we're not actually going to be embroidering yet, but we're going to be showing you how to get going with the project.
Yeah, this is a real important one, and when she says that, it really is. This is a very important one because while it looks kind of simple,
I'm not lying.
organizing this and laying it out properly, and we'll walk you through it, but that is a big part of what will make your project a success.
Yeah, and otherwise you've just got all this stuff and you don't know where to start. So that's what this video is about, and we hope it's helpful. Okay everyone, so I'm going to show you the basics of getting an embroidery design from a CD or the internet, Etsy, wherever you buy your designs, onto a stick and onto the machine. So a lot of people, this is the part that holds them up. They're scared to get going. They don't know which one to open. They don't know which file to view. So I'm going to show you the basics of that. So today we're doing, obviously, an Anita Good Design flying geese wall hanging, and I've purchased the design online. If you're following along with us for this project, then we've sent you the design in a digital download. So now what do you do? So I'm working on a Windows computer, and I'm going to show you the software I'm using and all that good stuff. So I'm working on a Windows computer. Most software that you're going to find for embroidery machines is only going to work on Windows. You can use Mac if you run like a parallel system. Today I'm going to be using the Embellish Maker software from R&K, and I love this software because it's very simple to use. In regard to embroidery designs, if you don't have a software program loaded onto your computer, you're not going to be able to view your embroidery design until it gets to the machine. So having some sort of a software is really important when you're just starting out. Maybe not when you're just starting out with embroidery, but as you get into embroidery a little bit more, maybe you want to edit your designs, maybe you want to be able to view them and see which one you're picking to load onto your stick. So you're going to need some sort of software. If you don't have software, then you just won't be able to view the design. Think of it like this. This is kind of the analogy I give everybody. It's like if someone sent you a Microsoft Word document and you didn't have Microsoft Word on your computer would have no idea what to do with that file, and it'd be really hard to, you wouldn't be able to view it. So some kind of software is important. Embellish Maker, like I said, is one of my favorite softwares because it's very simple to use, but it's a totally robust, full software. I really think that a lot of people enjoy the software because of its ease of use. So that's what we're going to be looking at today. All right, so first things first, how do I find my design? Well, okay, say we sent this to you in an email, you've probably downloaded it, but it's hard to figure out where did it go. So most people, when you download a design, you're going to want to remember where you put it. Usually I'll download something to my desktop because it's really simple to find things. I don't have a ton of things on this desktop. I have a lot of things on my personal desktop at home. I know Brittany's laughing at me behind the camera because her desktop's wild too. But I usually download things to the desktop because it's really accessible and easy for me to find. On this computer, I'm going to click File or Start, and then I'm going to click this button here, my Documents button, because it's going to take me to my Documents page. And then on the side here, I can see all the different places and extensions that my computer has. This design is already on my USB stick, so I'm cheating a little bit. But if I downloaded this to my desktop, I'd just click Desktop up here and I'd be able to find it. Okay, so we're gonna do the flying geese wall hanging. So that's what this file folder is named. And then when you open the file on your computer, the first thing you're gonna see is 3 different extensions here. You'll see your designs, you'll see DS Store, which we're not even gonna touch, and then you'll also see this here, which is the flying geese wall hanging tutorial. I've gone ahead and printed this out, and you're gonna wanna print this out too. This is your manual for how we're going to complete this project. And even if you're following along with me here, you're still going to need this. So the first thing you'll wanna do is just double click on here on the flying geese wall hanging tutorial. It's going to ask you what you want to open it with. So you'll need some sort of a PDF reader like Adobe Acrobat or something on your computer. And then you'll see my file right here. This is not my embroidery designs. This is just how I'm going to put everything together. We'll go through this in a little bit, but go ahead and get this printed so that you can have this easily accessible, easily accessible while we're doing the project. So I'm going to go ahead and close this. Okay, so flying geese wall hanging tutorial. Designs. So when you double click designs, there is going to be a file that opens up and it's going to have all of the different extensions that designs come in. So embroidery designs, when you buy them, most embroidery designs are going to have different file extensions that work for different machines. So if you are a Brother Baby Lock person, your design file extension is PES. If you're Janome, you need JEF. If you need Husqvarna, HUS. So no matter what machine you have, you can make any of these files work for you. So we're working on a Brother Luminaire 2 today, so I'm gonna go ahead and double click Brother Baby Lock. Now here's where things get a little confusing to people and people have kind of a hard time figuring out which file to open up. So this is where our manual comes into play. So let me go ahead and open it up. Okay, so looking at this, it may be kind of hard to tell, but the largest size block is going to be AAA, and then the butterfly sizes that will work for that largest size block are A, B, C, and D. So, how do I figure that out looking at this screen here? Well, sometimes it's trial and error because you don't always know just looking at this because not every embroidery designer is going to put the exact name on there, but this should kind of help you a little bit. So you're going to, these are 6 different sizes. Depending on your machine, you're going to choose the block size that works for you. So my computer is defaulting to use Embellish Maker anytime I try to open up a PES file or an embroidery file. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to double click on, I'll show you both of them. So let's go ahead and do C3D Butter 1A. So I'm going to click here. And this is just a butterfly, so it's not a block, it's just the butterfly design, one of the 3D butterflies we're going to end up doing. I don't want to work on this now, we're actually going to be working on the block. So CBFF2A, A is going to be my 3rd size block. I actually want to look for AAA, and here's the AAA extension right here, so I'm going to go ahead and click on it. And it's going to open up in my computer program. Now, to know that this is the right size block, at the top of my Embellish Maker software, it's showing me it's normal, it's showing me how many stitches, and it's showing me the width and height, 10.32 by 10.31, which is absolutely perfect because we're going to be using the 10 and 5/8 by 10 and 5/8 inch hoop. Let me say that again. The 10 and 5/8 by 10 5/8 inch hoop from the Luminaire 2 that comes standard with it, which is the perfect size to do a 10 by 3 by 10 by 3 block in here. So this is our quilt block that we're going to be doing and using for our flying geese. I know it looks a little confusing on here, but if I zoom out a little bit, you can kind of start to see all of those run stitches and lines that we're going to be using. So how do I get this from my software program to my stick? Let me show you. I'm going to show you two different ways to go about it. First, what I'm going to do is, this is the block I want to use, so I'm going to click File, and I'm going to Save As, and it's asking me what type of file and where do I want to save it. So when I go to Save As, first thing I'm going to do, so I don't forget, is I'm going to change the file type to a Brother Baby Lock PES. If you have software, it doesn't matter what type of file you download, you can typically save it as anything you want. I'm also going to rename it, and I'm going to call it Butterfly Block Large. You can call it anything you want, whatever helps you. And then I'm going to tell it where to save it, and I want to save it to my USB stick, USB drive F, and I'm just going to save it to the front part of it, and I'm going to click Save. And we're good. Let me show you one more way to do that in case you don't have software. So if you don't have software, that's okay. You're just not going to be able to view your design before you stick it onto your stick. So what some people will do is they'll go, let's go back to the beginning here, and they will take this entire Brother Baby Lock folder and they will drag it down to their USB stick, and they'll save it like that and open it on their computer. So I'm going to rename this really quick, and we're going to call it Butterfly Blocks and Designs. Again, you can call it anything you want. And then I'm going to, oops, should probably have a mouse. I'm going to drag this whole file onto USB drive F. And it's going to stick it on there. A note about USB sticks while this is loading. You typically don't want to use over a 4 GB USB stick. You can, but you know, it's hard. It's actually pretty hard to find smaller gigabyte USB sticks. The reason 4 gig is preferred is because although the computers on the machines are robust, you don't want to give it too much to have to look through. So it's nicer to just kind of use the files that you're going to be working with and bring them to your stick one by one. The more the machine has to catalog through, the longer it takes, especially if you have an older model machine and not like a new Luminaire 2. I will do a video where I show you how to do this wirelessly as well, but this is the most traditional way, so we'll stick with that. Okay, now if I click on my USB stick, I can see I've got two different things here. So I've got my Butterfly Block Large, and I should have my 3D Butterfly Wall Art, Flying Geese Wall Hanging. Everything that I've downloaded onto my USB stick is right here. So we're going to be working with Butterfly Block Large today, and it's already on my stick, so it'll pull up on my computer on my machine as soon as I'm ready to download it. So if you don't have software, you're just going to go directly from your digital download, which was right here. You're going to go directly from your digital download straight to your USB stick. If you don't have software, if you do have software, you could open it up and make sure that you're looking at the right thing. And if you don't have software, let me just go over this one more time for you. This is going from largest to smallest in size. So you're going to want to look for the letter that corresponds with your block. So all of our blocks have these sizes on here: A, AA, AAA, B, C, and D. So if you are using a 5x7 hoop, you're probably going to want to open up block D. Let's see what our size is here. Perfect. It's a 4.7 by 4.7, so if you have a 5x7 hoop, this will be the perfect size for you. But if you have a huge, large, like Luminaire, you can use the AAA block, which is going to be that 10.5 by 10.5 inch block. So hopefully this was helpful in helping you guys figure out how to get your design from the internet or a CD onto a USB stick, and then I'll show you how to get it from the USB stick onto the machine in just a minute.
I'll go to Embroidery, pick my pocket, the USB, again, the USB mark that has no mouse next to it. Select that, and then it looks like it's under butterfly. Perfect. The embroidery data does not include enough thread information. Let's skip that, because we're going to tell you what thread to use, so you don't get a choice.
Brian, I showed them that we were going to do a Wi-Fi video, not today, but show them how to download it Wi-Fi. Do you see the little Wi-Fi button at the top there?
Should I show them that?
Well, we're not going to use it today, but it is there. It's an option.
What Jessica was talking about, obviously, is the little Wi-Fi button right here. So that we can wirelessly send our designs to and from our machine and our laptop. So we'll go ahead and set that, and we're all set to get going.
That looks. This video is so important because it's how you actually get going. And I think that's the biggest problem a lot of people have is they just don't know where to start with an embroidery design, right, Brian?
That's my biggest problem. Getting going, the motivation and the inspiration.
Not even the motivation, just where do I start? So I hope that this finds you well, and I hope that you guys are not totally just pulling your hair out at this point, trying to figure out how to start with get the embroidery design going. So we've got it from the machine, the computer to the machine, and now we need to kind of talk about fabric and thread and all that kind of stuff, right, Brian?
Yes. I haven't seen the outline, so my answer is always just yes.
Okay, yeah, it's a good place to be, just the yes man. Okay, anyway, all right, so this is the 9-inch block size. This is the 5x7-inch block size. It's the exact same thing, except for if you have a bigger hoop, you can do a bigger design, right?
Sure, and if you don't have a bigger hoop, I have the machine for you, so just
give
send
us a call. So we're going to be doing this block size. So if you bought the kit from us, then you've got these colors inside your kit. Now, obviously the color you have the most of is black because that's the background, right, Brian? Why don't you hold up some of these other colors and we'll talk about them.
I'm like Vanna. I'm Manna.
So this part of the tutorial, page 6, has how we label folded fabric blocks. Okay, so we didn't use, unfortunately, the fabric that Anita Good Design was using. This was Steve's Chrysalis collection, but we did use some other cool fabrics, including a Cape Facet fabric. This fabric was no longer available. Sorry, Steve. It was so popular, it sold out. So we're not going to use the exact same fabrics that they used. We're using different ones, and this is a lot of the part of the creativity process that I'm going to leave up to you guys, but I'm going to show you kind of how we're going to work this. So anywhere you see a dark color on here, 1, 4, 8, 10, 7, 5, and 11. Oh, and number 2. Anywhere you see one of these dark, like gray or black colors is going to be this black solid fabric that we have here. And then anything you see here where you've got any sort of color like the pink, the blue, the yellow. So this block here, which doesn't look like they labeled it, they just called that one star. Number 3, number 6, and number 9, you can use any of these fabrics. We use them in like our own little sequence here, but they don't have to be in a certain sequence. So this is very important to know how to do because when we get to the next page here, this is the confusing part. So your design's just going to look like, you know, this multi-line design, and it's not going to be too hard once you get into it, but you've got to have a game plan going in. So knowing which fabrics you're using and which order is really important. Now, we gave you extra fabric in this kit because some of the fabric you're going to want to use to make your butterflies. So there's some extra of the purple and some extra of the coral color here. There's not as much here because you just need these for your little flying geese. So this part is important. Organizing your project is important to do. And now what we're going to do is we're going to flip this over and we're going to go into the next part of the design here where we're going to do the folded fabric technique, and we'll show you guys how to get that going.
Okay, so what came in the Essentials bundle that everyone received is you have 14 spools of Floriani thread. Let me move these in here so we can see all of the different colors.
So the Floriani embroidery thread that we're using is a 40 weight polyester thread. and it's really nice. Now, most of these colors are going to be for the butterfly themselves, right, Brian?
Correct. The butterflies are very stitch intensive, so a lot of the colors you're not going to use anywhere besides the butterflies. In addition to your 14 spools of thread, I should count, yes, 14. I don't want to say the wrong thing again. I got called out on the last video because we had some duplicate thread colors that you'll use in Chrysalis 1 and 2. But in addition to that, you're going to get finishing touch bobbin thread. So this is what you're going to want to wind all of your bobbins with this thread.
I think that's important to tell people too, Brian, because a lot of people that could be new to embroidery for this project may not know that unlike sewing, with embroidery, you don't have to wind a bobbin to match your top and bottom. You only want to use one color. We used a white finishing touch thread. You're never going to see it. Now when we get to the butterflies, we are going to wind bobbins to match our thread colors, but we're going to be using this finishing touch bobbin thread, and it's a 60 weight polyester. 60 weight is lighter than 40 weight, which is what you have on top. And so it'll pull the top thread down and you'll never have to wind a bobbin to match.
But won't they spend more money if they match their top and bottom?
They will, but it's useless.
Just kidding, y'all.
It's useless and you don't need to do that. So,
don't do it, don't listen to me.
So for the folded fabric blocks, so for the main blocks, not the butterflies, you're going to wind a bobbin, or go ahead and wind a few bobbins of this white finishing touch bobbin thread. And then for the most part, we'll probably just use like a black or a gray color. So any one of these colors will work that you want to use for your folded fabric blocks. So for the butterflies, we're going to use all the thread colors. For the folded fabric blocks, you'll probably just want to use one of these colors plus your bobbin thread here.
Okay, and now for my quilted blocks, you'll see that you've got pre-cut lots of black fabric because, as you note, you've got a lot of sections of black. This is the smaller version of the Chrysalis. So if you have a larger hoop size, don't be concerned. This is the miniature version. So you've got lots of black. Then you've got all of these strips that are going to be for your flying geese here.
Yeah, I was wondering if you were going to get that right.
I absorb information.
Yeah, you do.
And then we've got larger strips, and these we gave you a lot of extra fabric because these are going to be some of the fabric that you utilize on your butterflies.
Yep.
So this should be everything. Everybody received this kit. And next we're going to go through what we have in the premium kit.
Okay, so first thing I'm pulling out of the premium kit, which is different than the essentials kit, are my wave applique scissors. This is going to be super important as we start to build our blocks. There's a lot of cutting involved. Now, the reason the wave applique scissors are really nice is because the handle is curved, so when I'm cutting, I don't have to kind of get as far into my hoop, and it kind of allows me to keep my hand nice and flat and at one angle. So a good pair of scissors is essential to applique, which is what we're doing today, and I really like these. Brian, I see you chomping at the bit. You want to tell them something about these?
And this also protects, the underside of this is going to protect your applique that you're trimming out, right?
Very true, which is why it's nice to have that duckbill to it.
Now you say wave applique and duckbill. Are those interchangeable terms for this?
I have no idea. They just call these the wave applique scissors. There are, all the different companies name their scissors something different. The thing I love about these wave applique scissors is this is part of the Quilter Select line, also from R&K. They're a fabulous embroidery company, and they do scissors very well. So a sharp pair of scissors is a must, especially a curved sharp pair of scissors.
So I think that I set Jessica up without even telling her that, but duckbills kind of refers to this. I think what makes these the wave applique, which makes them so nice, is that curve you talked about earlier,
Yep.
because they're not flat.
Yep. Okay, so we'll set those to the side. So you're gonna need a pair of scissors immediately. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and, he's laughing at me. We're also using Floriani's no-show mesh as our base for this project. So the no-show mesh is going to, it's not the overall batting that we're using. We'll get to that in a second, but this is what we're going to put in our hoop. So you're gonna need some sort of a poly mesh, no-show mesh. In my opinion, Floriani makes the best no-show mesh on the market. What do you think, Brian?
It's the only stuff I use.
Okay, that's what I'm talking about. So we're going to actually hoop this. This is the only thing that's actually going to go in our hoop, like in both pieces. So you're gonna need some sort of a mesh. There is another stabilizer in your essentials kit. Do not get this one confused with no-show mesh, because you will be very disappointed when this one gets wet. It goes away, which is very nice for when we do our 3D butterflies. You're going to need some sort of a stabilizer that dissolves because we are going to hoop this as well, but not for this part of the design. This will be for the butterflies. So don't get your no-show mesh and your Wet and Gone confused. In fact, they're going to look very similar when you finally take this packaging off. So what I typically do, what do you do, Brian?
Well, I've got different ribbons that I wrap around that are either labeled or color-coded. What do you do?
I take this label off and I stick it inside the tube so that when I need to go reference what I've got going on, I can just pull it outside the tube.
She had a really clever idea that she wanted to share with you and one-up me. Okay, I'll keep that in mind. Moving on to the next portion.
So don't get these two things confused. Let me just tell you one more thing about Wet and Gone and no-show mesh really quick, since you've got these in here. First thing I'll say about no-show mesh is they make this in a fusible version as well. I use the fusible version a lot. I use it for sweatshirts, onesies, any type of garment, anything with a stretch to it that's like a cotton, not lycras and things like that, but anything that's got a stretch to it, because this is going to take away any of the stretch in the fabric. So no-show mesh also comes in a fusible version. You don't need a fusible version for what we're doing. So it's a really nice, really versatile stabilizer. It's something you'll keep in your arsenal. Wet and Gone is used for many things, but mostly like 3D freestanding elements. So like freestanding lace, these 3D butterflies that we're using. So if you're at all interested in doing any type of like a lace or any other 3D elements with embroidery, you're gonna need this too. So both of these stabilizers, we use a ton. If you don't have them and they came in your premium package, make sure you keep these labels and that you know which ones they are so that when you need to go for them again, it's nice. I also store my stabilizers in a plastic bag and not in sunlight. I think that's important because it keeps them lasting longer. Stabilizer can go bad, you guys. So if you have like a very old stabilizer laying around, you'll probably want to test it out with some sort of an embroidery design before you start. You need to keep your stabilizer fresh. You don't need to keep it in like the fridge or anything like that, but a bag and not in direct sunlight, and preferably not in your garage, especially if you live in Texas. So you want to protect your stabilizers, and I think that's an important thing to note. Okay, now this is one of my favorite products, and it does not get enough love from the embroidery community, so I'm hoping this video maybe changes that a little bit. This is the embroidery batting. Now, this is not going to go physically in the hoop, it's going to float on top, and it's going to be the base for what we use this design for. Embroidery batting is really nice. It's a batting that has stabilizer mixed into it. So it's got really nice fibers in there. It's not a traditional weave batting like your Hobbs 80/20 or anything like that. So any type of embroidery projects that are like a wall hanging, quilted, or anything that requires batting, I like to use the embroidery batting from R&K Floriani. So this is included in there. If you're using a regular batting, you'll be okay, but embroidery batting just gives me really nice flat results when I'm doing my, when I'm stitching. It's a little bit extra stabilization, and this is what we're going to use as our batting for this project. This is the most important thing in the bag. This is the trimmer by George, and we're going to do an entire video on how to use this. I'll go ahead and take it out of the bag so you guys can see. You won't need this immediately, but I will show you just so you can see what it's all about. And it'll give you time to get one if you don't have one yet. This was developed by a company called Hoop Sisters. I would call them like the queens of in the hoop embroidery. They are all about doing this like embroidered quilting thing. The reason it's so cool is there's a lip on the edge of it. So when we go to start trimming our blocks, once we've completed all 6 of them, this is going to be really helpful. So you don't need this immediately, but it's in the premium kit, and you're going to need it eventually. So if you don't have one, go ahead and get that ordered now before the project gets going. And last but not least, Brian, I'll let you talk about these. You better change that needle before we get started. Show them what we're gonna use for needles.
We're gonna be using the Schmetz, just standard embroidery needles, and these are 7511?
7511.
7511. Yeah, so there's only a few things that we can control when we're doing embroidery work that can kind of make or break your project, and that is thread, stabilizer selection, and of course your needle. Needles are cheap, and anytime I'm having an issue with my projects, the very first thing I do is toss the old needle out and put a new one in, and 9 times out of 10 that fixes it. The 10th time, that's usually user error, and I have to run and get Jessica.
So before we get going on the project, you're gonna want to go ahead and put an embroidery needle in. I love these ones from Floriani. They're chrome, which is really, really nice. They're strong, but they'll break when they need to break, which I think is important. So before we get going, change the needle in your hoop. One last thing I want to say really quick too is, I forgot to say this, you're going to need to buy one of these Trimmer by George's. You're also going to need for this a 60mm rotary cutter, which is slightly larger than a traditional rotary cutter, which is a 45mm rotary cutter. So for this, you're going to want to use a 60, which is, like I said, just a little bit larger. So if you don't have one of those, go ahead and get a 60mm rotary cutter to work with this ruler as well.
Well, wasn't that fun? And look at what a great project we finished with.
We haven't finished it yet. In fact, you haven't even started, but that's okay, right?
Oh, this is just the end of day 1, okay.
Yeah, we haven't even started yet. So this gives you guys plenty of time to get anything that you need, your fabric, your thread, your wave applique scissors, maybe a 60mm rotary cutter for your Trimmer by George. You have plenty of time. You've got 1 week until our next video where we're actually going to be stitching. And what are we going to stitch in our first video, Brian?
Oh.
He loves questions.
I honestly have no idea. This is the first time I've heard this question.
We're going to be stitching block number 1, which will be repeatable.
That's the answer. God, I should have been able to guess
Which
that.
will be repeatable throughout the rest of the project. So what we're going to be starting with next week is one of these blocks, and we're going to go through the whole process of how to hoop, stabilize, cut, do all the fun things. So get your stuff together, get ready.
This is going to be fun, quilting in the hoop. I cannot wait.
I can't wait either.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right,
Thanks,
see
guys.
y'all.
See you soon.
Bye.